Am I wrong for photoshopping my maid of honor's tattoos out of my wedding photos? So I, 32 female, got married 2 months ago to my husband, 35 male. We had a beautiful wedding and my childhood BFF, Jessica, 31 female, was my maid of honor. I had a themed wedding. My husband and I are both historians and we met because we were researching the same time period for a thesis, namely the 1800s in Great Britain, or popularly known as the Regency era. The fact that we both researched the same time period was practically the reason why we started dating, so we instantly loved the idea of a themed wedding set in the Regency era, as it was sentimental to us and a beautiful way to honor our beginnings. For my wedding, I personally paid for my wedding party's dresses, hair, and makeup. Now, Jessica has tattoos on her hands, legs, torso, and neck. I brought up her tattoos and asked her what she would prefer to do with them to stay on theme. She said she wishes to do nothing, and while she understands the theme is important to my husband and I, she was not going to cover herself up in any way as she didn't want to compromise herself. I was a little miffed, but I accepted this, since it's a fair boundary and so I didn't push it. Plus, gloves were an important part of the bridesmaid's attire, meaning most of her tattoos will be covered by the gloves itself, and it was really just the neck tattoos I was worried about, but the bridesmaid dresses had conservative necklines, so it wouldn't be very conspicuous, and so I thought I could just get over this and not worry. However, on the day of the wedding, Jessica's gloves were small instead of the big ones I expected the bridesmaids to wear, and her dress's neckline did nothing to cover her tattoos as she had altered it last minute. I did not expect this and was kind of thrown off, but after a while, I stopped caring and was busy having the best day of my life. However, fast forward to a few weeks ago, I got back the first set of pictures from my wedding day, and the pics with Jessica and them were jarring to say the least because of her tattoos. It was honestly so out of place that I had asked my photographer to edit the pictures to give them a more historic portrait-like look. I wanted a particular picture of my husband and I, our families, maid of honor, and bridesmaids framed, but if anyone saw that picture, the first thing they would have noticed was Jessica's tattoos and not my husband and I. I really wanted this one particular picture to look like an actual portrait in 1810, so I went ahead and asked the photographer to digitally remove the tattoos. The post-Photoshop pic came in the mail yesterday and I showed it to Jessica. I knew she would have gotten annoyed with this and I was ready to apologize sincerely, but also let her know that I won't be returning the picture. Jessica was very mad when she saw the pic and told me that this was a narcissistic and disrespectful thing to do and stormed out of my house. She was more mad than I expected her to be, so now I'm not sure if I was truly way out of line or just a little bit selfish. So am I the asshole? Am I wrong for not telling my friend's wife that he is my sperm donor? I'm a 30-year-old asexual woman who is currently 33 weeks pregnant with twin girls that I conceived through IVF. I have always wanted children but never really considered them on the cards for me due to my sexuality, but now I'm in a position where I felt stable enough to bring a child into the world on my own, so I decided to go through IVF. My best friend since high school, 31 male, found out about my plan and how I was looking into finding a donor so it wouldn't be anonymous and I can find the medical history, etc. And he offered to be the sperm donor. At least I would know his medical history and any risk there would be attached. I agreed, but made it very clear he wouldn't have a parental role in this child's life, and at most he'd be an honorary uncle due to our friendship. He was happy to agree to this, and it never once occurred to me that he would offer this without running it by his wife first, 31 female. As some of you will likely be worried, I use an HFEA clinic, which is a legally licensed clinic, which means due to the paperwork signed when it underwent IVF, he has no legal right or obligations towards the babies, which is what both of us wanted going into this. The IVF was successful, as my pregnant state proves, a little too successful perhaps as it's twins. I recently took my friend and his wife out to dinner to thank them for doing this for me and celebrate being in the 3rd trimester, but his wife was confused when I explained the reason for the dinner and then angrily demanded to know why he kept this from her, and I was just as shocked and asked my friend if he hadn't told his wife. He tried to explain to both of us that he hadn't thought it mattered as he has no rights to the babies. His wife got even angrier at that part, stating she isn't comfortable with their son, 6 male, having siblings that aren't really his siblings, and she wants that part changed so that her husband has a legal say over the girls. I was in shock over this, but said I wouldn't be doing that as I wanted to raise them alone. The 3 of us got into a huge argument and his wife demanded to know why I wouldn't tell her that her husband had offered this in the first place. I feel really guilty for not checking with his wife first, but it honestly never occurred to me that he wouldn't have done that first, so I thought if he was offering, she'd have to already given the okay. Am I the asshole in this? I don't know what to do. Okay, it's not your fault that you didn't consult his wife. He should have. But I think when you had that conversation initially, you should have had both of them present. That's how I would have gone about it because everyone makes valid points here. Am I wrong for not telling my dad that I had a baby? For context, I, 28 female, have never been close with my dad, 66 male. My parents got married super fast and had 3 kids in 5 years. Then their relationship started to deteriorate, but when they were about to separate, my mom accidentally got pregnant with me. So they tried to make it work, but they failed and my dad left when I was 3. He got an apartment about an hour away while us kids stayed with mom. Because my dad left when I was so young, I never properly bonded with him. For the first couple of years after he left, I didn't really want to spend time with him because I was upset that he left. This made my dad unsure what to do with me, so he gave up trying to have a good relationship with me quickly. Growing up, I only saw him when he came to visit my siblings and we never spent any time alone together. He moved to another state as soon as my siblings were all 18 and has never invited me to visit. Meanwhile, my sister gets a plane ticket to visit him every year. We got into a fight 2 years ago, and since then, I have given up caring about our relationship because it obviously means more to me than him. Now, onto the actual story. I had my first baby last November. My dad has texted me a couple of times since I got pregnant, but it was always a one-off text that didn't really segue into me telling him about the baby. Plus, I wasn't rushing to tell him anyway, because if he hasn't been a good father, then he's not going to be a good grandfather. I wasn't actively trying to keep the baby from him, but I try not to think about him much because it upsets me. However, yesterday my dad came to visit. I knew he was coming, but he wasn't supposed to come until today. He'll only be here for a couple of days, and I wasn't planning on seeing him anyway because I'm busy this weekend. But last night, my husband and I were at my sister's house babysitting her kids and had our daughter with us. That's when my dad showed up a day early. He's staying there with my sister and was surprised to find us there with the baby. Once he got over his initial shock, he took me into another room and got mad at me for not telling him about his granddaughter. I was annoyed by this, so I told him he wasn't really ever going to know her anyway because he doesn't really know me. Then he told me I was a selfish bee for not even giving him the chance to know his granddaughter. I started getting mad at him until my husband heard and came to stop us before the situation got worse. I haven't talked to him since, but he texted me about how hurt he was, and all of my siblings texted me that I was a jerk for not telling him about the baby. However, they all talked to him regularly and they never told him I had a baby either, so he obviously wasn't asking about me. But even my mom, who doesn't like my dad, thinks I'm in the wrong. My husband is on my side, but he's the only one who actually understands how complicated my relationship is with my dad. I know I shouldn't have lashed out at him and I regret that, but am I the asshole?